Hello, it's moving through menopause time yet again. Hello, Dr. B, how are you today?
Great, thank you.
Well, you may or may not have noticed that I am doing a double whammy today, twice live, chatting through I know, through the airwaves. And that's because Dr. B's in another time zone on another continent, and we didn't want to disappoint and miss you out of this conversation. So thank you so much. I know it's much earlier in the day where you are.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's about 9 a.m.
There you go. See, I'm getting a little bit sleepy and you're firing on all cylinders. Well, that's probably just as well because we're talking menopause. We're talking how do we keep having these conversations, without people zoning out, tuning out, and it all turning a deaf ear? We really want to keep these conversations interesting and relevant as well. So today we're talking about menopause. Is it too much to ask for us to be all wrong, feeling all wrong, and yet still be all right? Our nearest and dearest, our loved ones, our colleagues in the workplace, and our families and friends, are they really getting a bit fed up of this conversation going on and on and on? Well, you know what? Menopause is not just for Christmas, is it? It's for the rest of our lives. So what do you think, Dr. B?
That was wiping the perspiration off.
Indeed it was.
Well, yeah, this is such a great topic. And I was reflecting on, there's so many different things I could think of, but one thing that really struck me was, it's not exact, of course, was kind of comparing menopause to a chronic illness, for instance. So someone who has diabetes or Parkinson's or Crohn's or other illnesses that are long-term, and not just, you have pneumonia, you're treated, you're done. And
Mm,
so, if you make an analogy with that kind of population, and many, many people have chronic illnesses, we don't have it stamped on her forehead. So it's not like there's a big M for menopause, and we're not advertising to the world, yes, we're in menopause or we're dealing with menopause. And so folks who've had chronic pain or chronic issues have dealt with this very topic. Often for much longer and often even lifelong. So that's kind of the first analogy I thought would be useful for women and families and people to think of.
mm,
Because when you think about menopause at home or amongst your family structure or in the workplace, there's a different level of privacy involved. You may not want to share some things at work. You may not want to share things at home. And I think that there's a balance there. How do you, like you say, how do you kind of navigate the journey that we're going through at the same time, hopefully garnering empathy or understanding? It may not be empathy from others, but without playing a victim and also without ignoring your own symptoms. So it is a very complex
mm.
puzzle.
Yeah, and I think that you've really nailed it there with what you said at the end. That, yeah, without garnering frustration as well. People wanting to feel like you are heard, I think is such a big thing for people, isn't it? Feeling like you're heard, and that your experience is valid. It's not dismissed.
Right.
And as you start to get to a stage of life in middle life when you're already maybe feeling a little bit more invisible than you have done previously in your life. And so it's just another layer of dismissal, isn't it, that you can encounter. So I do, I am really concerned that we keep up the conversation, but that we're not boring people with it, and we're shedding, like unpeeling that onion, peeling the onion rather, stripping away the layers and getting to the nub of the matter. And I was thinking about this myself because you know what, I've just been on holiday, and You may know that about me. I've just been on holiday. And whilst I was on holiday, unfortunately, my husband was not very well.
Oh,
And I know, and he had a nocturnal cough. For those in the know, that means a cough at night time. So he wasn't too bad during the day, but a nocturnal cough. If there's one thing a nocturnal cough is going to do, Susan, what is it?
sleep disruption.
There you go. Nail on the head. Disrupt your sleep. And so this, unfortunately for him, this went on for the whole of the holiday, which was 2 weeks long. And, you know, he came home saying that was the worst holiday he'd ever had. And I think really he just meant the coughing at night time. And that's what I'm hoping anyway.
Oh gosh, let's not go there.
Yeah, no, the coughing at night time and the sleep disturbance and how tired he was. And actually he's upstairs having a nap because he's not quite over it yet. He had to retire from his work early this afternoon and go upstairs and have a rest. And I may have accidentally mentioned, you know what I'm going to say, that for quite a long time, as I was approaching menopause, I had disrupted night sleep. And he didn't take it too well at that point. He's like,
I think there's a time and a place to dare I say educate others, because we do educate people about ourselves, our likes, our dislikes. It's not just medical things. So I'm having this flashback, not hot flash, but flashback to kind of my mother's generation. She's long since passed. God forbid you talked about anything like that, your periods or menopause. I mean, it just wasn't really necessarily done. Fast forward to our modern society where hopefully that's not quite so hidden, but frankly, everyone has a different comfort zone. So at what point do you tell someone your broken record? Every night I'm getting up 3 times, or I'm soaking wet, or I'm tired. And, at some point it's the boy who cried wolf. No one's going to listen anymore. But on the flip side, what your example of your husband and the vacation, do we actually, as women going through menopause, do we require someone to experience a part of what we're experiencing in order to understand us? Probably not. I mean, it's akin to, like, for instance, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I've had it for 22 years. Well, someone, bombs a ski slope, breaks their leg, and has knee surgery, and like, oh, my knee's really hurting. It's like, yeah, no.
Just one minute.
Okay.
You remember that Dalek? It's come back again. We've got these menopausal disruptions from in the sound waves. I don't know, dear. We did a rehearsal yesterday and it was so perfect. We were patting ourselves on the back.
Prematurely.
Prematurely, yeah, certainly seems that way. So I'm not entirely sure what we can do. Let me think about this. Just bear with me for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm just checking my settings. What is it that we want to look at? Oh, I've got my echo cancellation on. Echo cancellation must be off to use stereo audio.
I'll talk again just in case. Maybe.
Yeah, no, it's still there.
Maybe I'm too close. Maybe I can sit back. Is that better? Maybe I was.
I'm really not sure. Let me try that again. Just speak to me now.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is crazy. I don't understand.
Well, do you want to try going and coming back?
I will leave studio and you have to let me back in. Okay, be right back.
We'll try that. So here am I all alone in the studio waiting for Dr. B to return to carry on our conversation all about menopause. She said, crying wolf. The boy who cried wolf. He spoke too many times about all the things that were seeing the wolf, I guess. And before you knew it, nobody was listening when he did actually see the wolf. And we really don't want this to be happening in menopause, do we? It's very real, it's biological, it's not in our brain. Well, it kind of is in our brain because of the hormonal influences on the brain. And so having these conversations to make sure that people are aware that it's a very real physiological process that we women encounter in, and you know, it just so happens it's in middle life when that happens. Here she comes. Let's try again. See her.
All right. What do you think? Better?
Oh, yeah, definitely better.
All right. We'll go with it.
Yeah.
So,
So where were we,
yeah,
Susan?
I was making this analogy. I think,
Go on.
do you have to experience,
Mm.
for instance, fatigue yourself before you understand someone's fatigue? Do you have to experience sleep disruption before you understand? Yes and no. And I think my analogy, which got a little crazy, was if you're bombing down a ski slope and you break your knee and then you have surgery and you recover and then you have a lot of knee pain. Does that mean you can now empathize with me? I've had rheumatoid arthritis for 22 years. And so now, does that mean you understand me? I don't think it does. You know, our experiences are very individual. They're very unique and very unique. They're unique. And so I believe that it's a two-edged sword. Part of the duty is ourselves. We have to express our needs. We have to say how we want to feel understood or heard or not, if it's very private. And then there's the flip side, dare I say society, but I think as a society in general, be it the general public or back to the workplace scenario, then do we have to have greater understanding in an aggregate way about women at this phase of their life and understanding them as maybe not special needs, but to be a little more forgiving, you know, bathroom trips or whatever it might be. So a lot of stuff in there. And I'm sorry we're disconnected from our original thread.
No, I think you absolutely picked up the baton and ran back with it there. So thank you. Yeah, being forgiving of our failings as human beings, and that isn't reserved for us in middle life. It, as you say, people can have experiences that travel with them through all the way from the beginning through the whole of their lives, and require us to be just a little bit more understanding, empathetic, and forgiving. And menopause is not really any different to that, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that I sort of keep coming back to is the fact that my life experiences that I have undoubtedly changed how I feel when I encounter other people who've had similar experiences. So that is the sort of the rub. Now, we can't go through life having every experience that is open to us. You know, we're not going to have all of those experiences. And so I suppose this is where you sort of maybe find in your tribe, that is people who resonate with the kinds of interests you have, maybe the job you have, I don't know, the experiences that you've had. But speaking of tribes, we've got another member of our tribe in the waiting room. So I'm going to let her in right now. Jackie Were. Welcome, Jackie. Oh, look at your hair. I like that.
Had it chopped.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah. I can tell it's different. That's the thing. So we haven't been together, have we, for a little while because of summer holidays and one thing and another. So thank you for joining us. Dr. B and I were just, having this conversation about carrying on our menopause conversations. How can we really keep these conversations going without getting, what is it, something like battle fatigue, I think is a word that we might use, either in ourselves or those people around us, those people that surround us. And maybe they think like they've heard it all before and they've had enough of listening to it. Well, as I said earlier this week, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep talking about this stuff.
Yeah. That's like saying that, if we go back 100 years, that people were sick of listening to the suffragettes. Could you just shut up and go away?
There you go. You got it. I knew you would get that. But this piece around empathy and feeling like being validated and heard, is something that we can get from without or out with, but it's also something we can get from within, isn't it, Jackie?
Oh, very much so. And in fact, we have to, I always advocate for sourcing from within, because if we're expecting an exterior solution to an internal problem, how's that going to happen? Where, this is where anxiety sort of really sits as well. Unless we realize that we have the capability of getting the change that we want. If we're always looking to outsource, we're always going to sit with a level of anxiety because we're expecting somebody else to solve the problem. Same with menopause. If we are feeling things within our body, whether it is the hot flushes or anxiety or whatever is the symptom is, if we're looking for an external solution to an internal problem, we have to look inside ourselves as well. Am I behaving or thinking in a way that's actually going to help me or not? So,
Yeah, I mean, I know there's no doubt when I was feeling shattered all the time from lack of good quality sleep, we'll say. It was disrupted sleep. I was asleep, periodically, but it was disrupted. And so when I was, if I could really go down that rabbit hole of feeling exhausted, how exhausted I was feeling. And conversely, there's other things that if I had to run away from the lion, I'd probably find the energy, wouldn't I? So we do have these resources within us when we need
do. Yeah. And it just all depends on how we want to interpret the signals that our body is sending. If we design a narrative around it that is fear-based or troublesome or worrisome, then our behavior falls in line with the expectancy of that belief. So if we can learn to look at the signals that our body is sending and choose a different story, just acknowledge it. Oh, here's a hot flush. What can I do? Go and run some cold water, hands, points, cool myself down, instead of running a narrative of, oh, here I go again. And so this is us looking internally and changing the narrative of it.
And I suppose we can, in how we present ourselves then influences how the world perceives us and reacts to us. So this, it isn't just about saying to people, oh, it's your problem and you've got to deal with it on your own, because that's not what we're saying. But that this feeling, sometimes a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness invades our persona, and that that can project on the people around us. And anger and frustration, again, we can project all of these feelings and emotions, and that's not desirable, is it? So that we're kind of influencing the relationships with others, whether it's family, friends, and or work colleagues, the way in which we project ourselves. So it's not just helping us; it's helping others to deal with us, or to help us. Yes.
I also think, I think that as we were talking, I was kind of daydreaming about, like, well, if you have cancer, there's often a huge cancer support network around you. Maybe there's a GoFundMe page. Have you ever had a GoFundMe page for menopause? No. So it's a very different process. And yet every woman, frankly, goes through it, and it's different for every woman. And so it's this kind of natural journey, but has some consequences and some profound impacts on how you feel and function, and also in other health conditions, akin to getting back to my original theme of chronic illness. And so, at what point do you just say, "Suck it up, Buttercup," and process and kind of be one with it? Or do you garner support, and how do you do that? And I think that's a big question. A lot of women I speak with who, for instance, are frustrated in a work workplace situation where they can't just run to the bathroom, or they can't, rip off their third layer of clothing, or they maybe you're a bus driver, so it's just there's levels of kind of recognition. I do feel that there are a lot of hidden symptoms, as of course many illnesses. If you have cancer, yes, that's one thing. There's a lot of hidden treatment side effects and so forth too. That's a good analogy. But demystifying menopause is so important. Having information or access to information is so important, because then it makes it a bit more normal and more expected and more understandable. And then everything Jackie said resonates, because it is how we respond internally to those external forces. You can choose to, as when I was a kid, my mother would say, like water off a duck's back, just let something go. And it doesn't mean that that's sweat running down your back. Where I get these analogies, but it does mean that you learn to, kind of ride that wave, and that's
yeah. And this is the complexities of navigating any health condition, really. A lot of invisible illnesses we hear about. We know that workplaces are still not disability friendly. People with lots of health challenges still struggle in the workplace, and menopause is another layer of challenges that workplaces then are having to respond to. And so, like you say, it is sometimes, I feel this conflict around what we expect from others and what we can do for ourselves, because obviously, I am all about everything we can do to help ourselves, whatever it is, nutrition, movement, the way we think, the way we live our lives. But then we don't live our lives in isolation, do we? We're part of this society with relationships, and I guess guidance and rules is always something that I've been quite in favor of. I make rules for myself. I make rules for my family. They're all hopefully following the rules. And so, society's still kind of building that map, isn't it, of what are these rules associated with menopause and other health conditions. It's still, we're growing, we're learning, and this is a good thing. And like Jackie said, we don't want to go backwards. We do want to move forwards, and that workplaces can help people by being more aware. And friends can help people by being a listening ear, open to just hearing, listening. Sometimes when you talk to people, and all you want to do, I mentioned no names, all you want to do is just talk. You don't want them to say anything particularly, just to talk. We can be good friends and have a listening ear, can't we, Jackie? What do you think? I know that you do a lot of listening.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, that's the funny thing. People think when you are talking that they want a solution, when actually we just want to be heard. Yeah. And don't offer up solution, just listen. Yeah. So no, that it's a skill that I think a lot of people need to learn. And it's not that they necessarily realize it or are wanting to do anything bad by their friendships. It's just they think they're helping by trying to find solutions when actually it's just listening that needs to happen.
Yeah. And so I suppose even when we're starting to get, it's a bit like if you burn something in the oven, right? If you were sat in the room whilst it was burning, you wouldn't necessarily notice it. But if you walk into a room where there's burning, and I'm saying this because my son keeps cooking toast, and on occasion it's cooked a bit too much, so it's burnt toast. And you walk into the kitchen and it's kind of hitting you like this. But when it's kind of bubbling on all the time and you're there, you're not really noticing it. Nose blind. You've heard that saying. So we can get a bit kind of, when we hear the same old story over and over again, and we start to switch off, which isn't really what we're looking for, is it? We're wanting people to hear those stories, and we're repeating ourselves for a reason, I guess. That's because maybe we don't feel heard. I'm not sure. What do you think, Janet? Did I just ramble a whole load of nonsense?
No comment.
She's listening. She's listening.
So poor Dr. B. Do you know what, Dr. B? The darling.
Oh, am I scrambled again? Oh God, no. All right.
I was saying earlier, Jackie, Dr. B and I even had a rehearsal yesterday. Do you know what? Let me just give me 1 second to reach for the. Hang on, I'll be back. My machine's not plugged in. I don't know if it'll make any difference.
Am I better now? No.
No. We've tried it all, Jackie. It's annoying me. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe try some headphones in the next time. Have you got some? You've tried that?
Well, the headphones work. Put them in because they were a little bit better briefly. Go on, and maybe just swap in and out. Yeah, we'll wait. Well, I gather myself. Because I'll tell you why I'm talking about this. Because
How about now?
No, it's not working. Oh, wish. Do you dare go back and come back again? Would you dare do that? Go and come back again.
All right. Bye.
Oh, I'm so sorry, because we absolutely tested the technology yesterday and it was so perfect. And it was even doing it before you arrived, Jackie. So it wasn't
so it wasn't just me joining.
No, it wasn't just you joining. But I'll tell you what prompted me to think about this and to try and unpick this a little bit was that I'm doing some work for a workplace, making a video for them, and my instruction was to make sure that it was something that people would I'm finding it hard to put it into words. That people would recognize that women are not to be dismissed because of these menopause symptoms. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So that the fact that we're having these challenges, the fact that menopause happens whether we like it or not, and for some women, you know what, they don't have outwards or inward symptoms, and they sail through, and that's wonderful. However, for those women who are not sailing through and who are having struggles, how do we make sure that we're not just written off as it's the menopause? Because having an excuse or a reason that can then become something that is just, we'll put it all in that packet of menopause, and it's just the menopause, and it's So how do we deal with this? That's the conundrum. That's what kind of made me think. Susan, are you back?
I'm afraid to talk.
Fine.
Well, that's better. That's definitely better. So speak now, quick.
Oh God, I was barely listening. For
women to not be dismissed because of this, for us, that dialogue, not to just for us to get nose blind to the dialogue,
Well, I think I'll tread a bit on Jackie's territory, so she might finish my sentences. But I honestly think it's no different than, as I said earlier, I have rheumatoid arthritis for 22 years. I know what pain is and what chronic illness is. Do I advertise it? No, I don't have RA on my shoulder, on my forehead. And do I feel it's necessary to educate people? No, it is my journey to, in my own body, and my own spirit identify with what values do I want to share with others? How do I want to feel about it? And so if I am navigating my journey, I don't need to necessarily share with others to be valued or understood. Just like they don't need to tell me that their father just died and they're mourning. Well, maybe they do want to, I'm going to listen. But I think as you become more comfortable in your own skin, thinking about menopause and that journey, which could be 3 months for some and 8 years of hell for others, it's how do you navigate that for yourself? And then how do you project yourself out to others? And then I wouldn't say necessarily let it go, but not have that be at the center of everything. And then I think you gradually learn to just incorporate that into your day to day, and you don't have that big chip on your shoulder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I like what you say, and it has helped me to clarify what I was thinking, and it is about communicating it dispassionately. Really, we're talking about facts. Facts.
Yeah.
They don't need to be interpreted one way or the other. They're facts. And so if we can communicate those facts dispassionately, not always easy when you're menopausal, but for me anyway, when I'm communicating this in a training package or whatever, they are facts, and we communicate them dispassionately, and then for people to just have that awareness, so that maybe one day something's going on and in and or around them, and they can think, oh, hang on, I think I remember something about that, and then it just allows for a level of understanding, and so Jackie, yes, am I right?
Yes, and I totally agree with everything that Susan has said as well, because for me, that's exactly how I approach things. It's how I help my clients to approach things. That it is how we view things. It's our own perspective that matters. That for me sits way higher than somebody else's perspective. They can get on with what they think, but it's how we feel. And if we are approaching things as a problem, then we put it over as a problem. If we approach it as a fact, then that's what it is. It's a fact. If we approach it that we feel bad, that's the perception that we have, and it's also the one that we portray to other people. So it fundamentally has to sit with how we feel, and then that way it comes over as factual. This is the fact. Yeah, we're going through menopause. Here's the symptoms. This is what I need. I don't think it needs to be put over that it's, I don't know. I don't like the word saying suffering either. Suffering, are we, that as well conjures up a whole different scenario. We're experiencing. Can we do things to change that experience that we're going through? Can we help to alleviate some of the symptoms so we experience differently? So yeah, it really does sit with our perception.
Yeah. And so we educate people around us, friends, family, work colleagues, so that they can understand what we are experiencing. And then any spin on that is basically ours that we might put onto that. So yeah, I think you know what, you've helped me today with what was a bit of a sort of a tumble dryer, Jackie. The dishwasher. I've forgotten which one.
Tumble dryer, the whirling thoughts. Yeah, just going round and round.
We'll do it all at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. There you go.
The washing machine that was going on in my mind. I think I've unraveled that now, and it is absolutely what you said. These are facts. These are experiences, and we do want society at large to have a little bit more understanding of what menopause means for women, and that actually, that can happen at any stage of life. For some, it's premature with surgery or through heredity, and for others, it's totally asymptomatic. And then some of us, like me, which is why I keep talking about it, had a bit of a roller coaster of a time of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and I acknowledge now that you know, I was responsible for a lot of how you know, my need for, what is it? What do you call it? Oh, not endorsement. That's the wrong word.
Validation.
That's it. That was the word. Yeah, yeah. Why did I feel I needed that? And that's something about me and not about menopause, actually.
Yeah, that's a really perceptive point to bring up. I mean, I don't need anybody to validate my menopausal symptoms. Why do I need to? Yeah, just getting on with them. You know, whether it's a hot flush that often happens whilst I'm in mid session with clients, and it'll just happen. And I just think, oh, there it goes. And if they want to sit and think, oh, crikey, she's gone really red, then that's up to them to sit and think, she's gone really red. Just get on with it. I just think, there we go. Always got a glass of water with me, have a drink, and just think, oh, hopefully it's going to pass in a minute. And along with, you know, all the other things that might happen.
Yeah, let's not go down the rabbit hole of all the other things that could go wrong. I think, you know, there is that end of the spectrum, and I know it was in the news this week that the HRT czar has had a duties sidelined. This is it, you know, in the UK. She's had a duties sidelined, and she's now back devoting her energies to the COVID vaccines. I think it is probably in time for the winter pressures. You know, maybe that's necessary, but that I did see it referred to in the press about the suicide. Sometimes that, you know, there are women who experience symptoms who are driven potentially as a result of those symptoms to take their lives. Now that's a complex picture. And I don't mean to unpick it, but what I did want to say is that there are symptoms that people struggle with, psychological symptoms associated with this hormonal fluctuation. The sleep deprivation that I struggled with, and it was for a number of years, not weeks, not days, not months, but years. And after a lot of time of not sleeping well, you are really not quite yourself. So, you know, there are symptoms. It's a spectrum, and we're all on a spectrum. So
I would say as well, this is going to sound almost toss-offish, but learn to laugh at yourself. I'd say there are times when you just know you're in the middle of a sentence and you cannot think of that word, right? You feel like an idiot, like you're sitting, okay, it has 4 legs, you sit on, oh, chair, that's the word. You feel like an idiot. So you have to be kind. The word kindness is very much in my forefront these days. Be kind to yourself. If you haven't slept well and you're really tired, know that, you know, don't just, you know, the nighttime's already done. You can't redo it, but know that you're exhausted, know that you're tired, and own, I hate to say own it, but own it. You know, if you can't remember words in the middle of a sentence, just fake it and figure something else out. And of course, 5 minutes later, you'll remember it. But you have to have a little bit of self-humor, a little bit of kind of like, oh, that's really funny. I totally forgot that person's name and I've known them for 30 years. Great. You know, so and joking aside, I will kind of put this together. Many people in my world as a physician come to me actually in perimenopause thinking they have dementia.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, my mother, when she was 82, had dementia. So it's starting now. I'm scared. I was like, nope, you're going through menopause. So validating, getting good information, having people listen to you, having a little fun with yourself, and learning to let a few things go sometimes can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just made me really think of a moment. And you're, again, so right. With a client, again, experiencing my menopausal symptoms, I said to her, I'm going to teach you something. I said, I'll tell you what the something is, but I can't remember the word of it. So I'm just going to teach you it. And I'm just going to hope that I remember the name of the thing I'm going to teach you before you leave. And if I don't, I'll text you and tell you what I've taught you.
And literally, it was like you were about to say the word and then it disappeared.
Couldn't for the life of me remember what it was I was going to teach her. I just
And
knew.
see, here we are laughing. Hopefully you were laughing at yourself. And then now we're laughing because we're laughing with you, not at you.
Yeah. And thankfully, my client was killing herself laughing as well, because she's like,
Good.
oh my God, thank God it's not just me.
Well, I deal with a lot of my challenges with humor, and you'll know that if you listen to the podcast ever, that we do have fun with this stuff. We don't want to ever minimize the struggles that people have, but we do want to help you to try and put a positive spin on it if it is at all possible. Information is power, and getting help. And if you're not getting the sort of help that you think you deserve, then just knock on a different door and find the door. It's a bit like what's that show with doors? I can't remember.
The Price is Right? No. Now that really dates us.
Knock on another door. Keep knocking the different doors. We're all put together differently. We're all going to have different experiences of life, and we're all going to resonate with different people, different practitioners. And so find that person, find your tribe, and get the help that kind of feel in your gut, feels like it's right for you. I'm big on guts, and I'm sure I think Jackie is too, aren't you, Jackie?
Look after your gut.
Yeah. So if it feels right, I say this often to people when I'm teaching exercises. If it feels like it's doing you good, the chances are it is. Okay. So whatever that is, a therapeutic approach, a chat with a friend, whatever it is, if it feels like it's doing you good, then the chances are it is. So I'm going to leave you with that thought on this Friday with the Menopause crew back at you. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, for coming along and helping us to laugh at ourselves and spread some information. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Have fun. Bye for now.
Have a good weekend. Bye.